Want to learn more about your true nature? Check out the many interviews and short videos produced by our friends at ispirit.us. Like their page at facebook.com/ispirit.dotus and browse through their many posts and be inspired by the wonderful and positive messages about life that they share with their community. If you would like to study the works of Spiritism and delve deeper into this philosophy that will be guaranteed to enrich your life by teaching you about the greater life, check out ediseiofamerica.com. At ediseiofamerica.com you can find all of the seminal works of Spiritism written and compiled by Allan Kardec, translated from its original French to English, as well as other Spiritist works that serve to add to the immaterial treasure that is the Spiritist philosophy and doctrine. As one of our subscribers and followers, be sure to use promo code ispirit_love to get 10% off from your next purchase and continue to support this beautiful work of dissemination. ispirit_love to get 10% off from your next purchase. Thank you.
Well, hello everybody, welcome back to our video series concerning what is Spiritism. This time we're going to move forward and talk about a section entitled Communications with the Invisible World. Now, because communications with the invisible world is a very deep field of study of the Spiritist science, we're going to briefly cover it because that is the purpose of these videos. It is to provide an overview of these things that we have in the Spiritist doctrine and not to go too in depth with them. So for the purposes of our studies, we're going to go over it, but we're going to touch upon a few of the points and subjects that they're going to bring up in this section, and then we're going to move forward to the next section as well. If you want to learn more about this, I encourage you to obviously purchase the book, What is Spiritism, at ediseiofamerica.com, or you can go and purchase the Spirit's book as well, which is the foundation of all of the other seminal works of the Spiritist doctrine. And as you read that book, you'll learn a lot about what Spiritism is all about. And then after that book, you may read the Medium's book, which is the book that will touch very deeply into this field, this study of the experimental part of the Spiritist science, which is the manifestation of the spirits, which is the communication with the invisible beings, as we're going to be talking about in this book. So let's get to it. So item 22 reads, having accepted the existence, survival, and individuality of the soul, Spiritism is left to answer one principal question: are communications between souls and the living possible? This possibility is a result of experience. Once the exchange between the visible and invisible worlds has been established as a fact, and once the nature, cause, and means of this exchange is understood, a whole new field opens up to observation and is the key to a multitude of problems. At the same time, it is a powerful moralizing element since it puts an end to any doubts regarding the future. So, are communications between souls and the living possible? Well, certainly. Certainly it is, because if we are spirits that are incarnated in a temporary existence that we know as the earthly life, and the spirits that are not here with us are discarnate, living in the astral world, if you will, in the other side of life, in the true side of life, then obviously we will always have a constant connection with them, because we are essentially the same type of being. We are only right now covered and enveloped by the physical body and thus limited in our senses. But we do have still the essence that is the same as the essence of the spirits who are already liberated, because we, before we were born into this life, we were also liberated spirits, waiting for our next turn on this earthly school, for our next school year, if you will, to come back into the semester of life. So yes, we have this constant connection because we're made of the same principle, we are the same essence. So this is without a question the truth, without any doubt whatsoever. It is logical and it makes perfect sense. And then it continues on here on item 22, as I had already read, a whole new field opens up to observation and is the key to a multitude of problems. Of course, it solves many problems for us because now we have an answer to what is waiting for us after this life. Is there an afterlife? And as we've already covered so many times in these videos, there is obviously an afterlife because we get these communications from these brothers and sisters who have discarnated, who have left and exited the physical realm and find themselves now in the spiritual realm. If we look back into antiquity, we had the Egyptian priests who had the same type of manifestation. The Pythonists or the Pythonesses of Greece, of Delphus, who are also mediums, if you will, who communicated via spirits as well, or who were the mediums between spirits and those who were around them. So they were the intermediary as well. We have the Sibyllines of the pagan temples from Roman times and from Greek times as well, who were mediums too. So this type of exchange and conversation between the invisible beings or the spiritual world has been going on since time immemorial. Why? Because since time immemorial, since there have been humans on the earth, there have been spirits as well. Because humans are incarnated spirits, therefore when the human leaves his body, he's going to be discarnate, but still around the same periphery or the same area of the earth. Therefore, we are always going to have this constant contact. So as long as there are humans here, there are going to be spirits here, and as long as we are here, we are going to have communications with these spirits who have discarnated from the physical body. It is just common sense. And at the same time, it is a powerful moralizing element, since it puts an end to any doubts regarding the future. It certainly does, because now we have a concrete evidence that's made itself patent and patently clear that there is an afterlife, that we continue forward. So now we can't err and just live life for the now. That whole saying that we've had, that expression that has been recent, and I believe is still used, YOLO, you only live once, is completely wrong. It's a wrong way to look at life. This liberates yourself from any responsibilities that you may have to gain the morals and the virtues that you need to gain to graduate to a better life or to a better future. So it's not about living this life and doing everything you can and taking advantage of all of the resources that you've received, because these are blessings and they are to be put to good use instead of wasted on material means, on those things that are temporary and that rust with time and are destroyed, because what we have as resources will also be destroyed with time. So it is a selfish way to look at things, because there's something else waiting for us, and we have to remember that, and we have to work on bettering ourselves and improving ourselves, because that is the right way to go about life, and that is the right thing that we need to do. That is how we align ourselves with the expectation of the divine, which is for us to follow that righteous path and to gain the virtues and those good things within us, let them blossom, so that we may, when we leave here, find ourselves in a better position than we were when we came back into this life, because it is in the earthly life, it is the incarnation of the physical existence that we put into practice the things that we've learned in the past, and then it is by this practice, this ability that we have here in this life to help others, to learn things, to work, the efforts that we put forward towards things that we need to have or we want or would like to have to earn a better life is what helps us to develop the faculties that we have, the talents that we have. So it isn't about taking a talent and burying it, or taking a talent and wasting it. It is about multiplying the talents, just like the parable itself teaches us. And that is precisely what Jesus was talking about. Item 23 says, in many people's minds, what sheds doubt on the possibility of communicating with the dead is the mistaken idea regarding the state of the soul after death. The soul is usually imagined to be a breath, a vaporous being, or something vague that can only be understood by means of thought, or something that evaporates and goes off to who knows where, to such a faraway place that it is hard to understand how it could return to the earth. If, to the contrary, we consider its union with a fluidic, semi-material body, which we've covered, known as the perispirit, we've talked about briefly, with which it forms a physical individual being, it communicates with the living, with which it forms a physical individual being, its communications with the living hold nothing incompatible with reason. And of course it doesn't. We've covered this already in the previous step. So we have to remember that it isn't just some spark floating around aimlessly through space. No. If we are still needing to go through the experiences of the earthly life, we are going to be hovering around its sphere of influence, no pun intended, but around this sphere, this celestial orb known as our dear Earth, until we graduate to a better school, until we've gone through all of the courses that we need to go through, until we've learned all of the lessons that we have to learn, and then maybe we'll go to a better school, to another world, whatever the future holds for us. But at this moment in time, we stay here. When we leave this life, we stay around the earth. We do not leave to some faraway place. Obviously, there is a possibility of doing so, but that is another discussion for another time. But for the purposes of this video and this discussion here, yes, we are able to remain in touch, in contact with those whom we love. If we have loved ones still here on earth, incarnated in this life, why would we abandon them? We don't do that in the physical life. When we leave the physical life and they're still in the physical life, we're not going to do that either. So we're still going to be around here, waiting for our next chance, our next opportunity. So yes, this communication is obviously something that's just natural for all of us. Item 24 says, since the visible world lives in the midst of the invisible world and is in constant contact with it, it follows that these two react incessantly upon each other. Yes, we are printed onto one another. That since there are human beings, there are spirits too. We've talked about this as well. Because humans are spirits, just spirits that are incarnated. And that if the latter have the ability to manifest themselves, then they must have done so in all ages and amongst all cultures. We've talked about this as well. It was in the designs of Providence to put an end to the scourge of disbelief and materialism by means of obvious proofs, enabling those who have left the earth behind to come and attest to their existence and to reveal their happy or unhappy conditions to us.